All right, we're going to begin our portion. In the book of Leviticus, the 21st chapter. This is speaking about who can eat of the holy things. The children of Israel, the priesthood, basically who can eat of the holy things. Okay, you want to read first?
Okay. You said 23rd chapter?
23rd?
21st.
21st, okay. Now these are judgments which thou set before them.
Leviticus 21.
Yes. Oh, I had it on my phone. And the Elohim said unto Moses, Speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, There shall be no defile for the dead among his people, but for his...
So that means that if you consider yourself to be a high priest, a priest, and someone dies, you cannot become unclean because of that person's death. He does have exceptions, and we'll read those things a little bit later. Read on, please. Well, let me ask you this. How do you become unclean if a person dies? How does that make you unclean? What has to take place?
touching the body,
Touch the body.
not cleaning the body, letting the body not cleaning it, just letting it lay out.
What makes you unclean?
What makes me unclean?
Yeah. If somebody dies,
Mm-hmm.
how could you possibly be unclean because of their dead body?
Good question.
You know?
If you're in the room with the dead body.
No.
No?
Nothing wrong with being in a room with a dead body.
Well, besides touching it, and
Go to Leviticus, the 19th chapter for me, please.
19.
See, in today's way of doing things, we overlook a lot of the things that the Most High has in order because these things are difficult to do. It becomes complicated, and a lot of people refuses to do these things for that reason. So they'll find reasons not to participate and do what the Father requires for us to do. Numbers 19th chapter, verse 1.
oh, number.
No.
19 verse 2.
You can start at 19 and 1. What does it say? Can you read it, please?
And the Most High spoke unto Moshe and unto Aaron, saying, This is the ordinance of the law, which Elohim hath commanded, saying, Speak unto the children of Yisrael, that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, upon which never came yoke. And ye shall give her unto Eleazar the priest, that he may bring her forth without the camp, and one shall slay her before his face. And Eleazar the priest shall take her blood with his finger, and sprinkle of her blood directly before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times. And one shall burn the heifer in his sight, her skin and her flesh and her blood, with her dung shall he burn. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet, and cast it into the midst of the burning of the heifer. Then the priest shall wash his clothes, and he shall bathe his flesh in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp, and the priest shall be unclean until the even. And he that burneth her shall wash his clothes in water, and bathe in his flesh in water, and shall be unclean until the even.
Now, this process is only making purified water, holy water. Waters of purification, they call it. Read on, please. What?
Can you get friends?
No.
Can you get your brother?
Selah, handle your business, please. I want you to leave us alone right now and go up there and do things the way that I told you to do it. Silica. Read 'em.
And a man that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and lay them up without the camp in a clean place. In a clean place. And it shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Yisrael for a water of separation. It is a purification for sin. And he that gathereth the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean unto the even. And it shall be unto the children of Israel and unto the stranger that sojourneth among them for a statute forever.
So now once we got the waters of purification, the priest wasn't involved any longer. And a lot of people don't take notice of that. They think that you need a priest for this service. The only thing you needed a priest for was make those particular waters. But now that we're not sure of our priesthood, if you were to make something of your own, it wouldn't be the waters of purification as specified by the law.
Right, because a priest isn't doing that.
Right. But I would pray that the Father, what I would do, and what I do, is I make waters of my own and I pray over it and I ask of the Father to, I acknowledge that I know that I don't have the waters of separation, just like keeping the Shabbat, just like keeping many of the laws of the Creator. We don't have the prescribed remedy to do a lot of the things as He say according to the law. But as a memorial, and that's the key word, as a memorial of this law, our efforts are still going to be put forward as if we had these things. And all we can do is in our efforts is ask the Creator to have mercy upon us. In reality, all of us are unclean.
Yeah.
The reason why is because we live in an unclean land. This land has never been purified or cleansed from the depths of our forefathers. So this land makes us unclean by default. The only thing we can do is put forth our best effort to please the Creator. By putting our best effort forward, He may be appeased in holding back His wrath and His turmoil, His judgment against us. So we make these waters of purification. We pray and we ask the Most High to have mercy. We acknowledge that we know that these are not the waters of purification as prescribed in the law. We ask that you would allow this to be a substitute at this particular time so that we can walk through the motions of doing a service that's pleasing to you, that you require of us. Because when you go to a funeral, that doesn't make you unclean. If you touch the dead body, that makes you unclean. If you go to a graveyard and walk on a grave, that makes you unclean. These are the things that make you unclean. If you touch the bone of a man, it makes you unclean. If you go inside of a house where someone died, not a hospital, not an office building, it says a tent, which is a dwelling, which is a house. It's equivalent to a house, a home. If you go into a home where someone has passed away, then you are unclean. If that place has not been sprinkled on the 3rd and the 7th day.
So,
How many of us you think have went into a house where somebody died and wasn't
No, I
sprinkled?
did.
Well, I know I did. I know for a
my
fact I
mom
did.
died in it.
I
My
know I
grandfather
did.
died in our house.
Only the Most High can have mercy on us because we're in a condition of perpetual uncleanness. Now, by putting forward the best foot forward and asking the Most High, and as I would like to put it, being reborn in this truth, the Most High will have mercy on you if you're sincere. I know that for a fact. He says it in His law. If you're sincere, then the Most High can have mercy on you. Okay? But read on, please.
What was we at? Number.
We was in Numbers 19th chapter. And we're reading about how someone can become unclean by the dead body.
And he that gathereth the
Tell us
ashes.
where you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Numbers 19, verse 11.
Most of our people don't even know that this rule or this law exists. They don't even know it. We go to funerals, kiss the dead bodies. I know I used to do those things. When my brothers would pass away, I gave them away with honor. You know? But when I came into the understanding of this law, I had to recorrect and ask for forgiveness of what I've done. and change from my evil ways. Read on, please.
He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. He shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he shall be clean.
So you had to actually sprinkle yourself on the 3rd day and the 7th day. And on the 7th day you were cleansed. Read on.
But if he purify not himself on the 3rd day, then the 7th day he shall not be clean. Whosoever toucheth the dead body of any man that is dead and purifieth not himself defileth the tabernacle of Elohim, and that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
Now notice how he says this. If this person does not purify himself on the 3rd day or the 7th day, he can't be clean on the 7th day if he doesn't purify himself on the 3rd day.
Right.
Now, this is a physical body. That means you didn't purify yourself. You made your body unclean, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Most High says you're defiling the tabernacle of the Most High. So what does that mean?
Your body's a temple. of the
Your
Most
body
High.
is a tabernacle of the Almighty. That's right. Read on, please.
And that soul shall be cut off from Israel, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. He shall be unclean. His uncleanness is yet upon him.
His uncleanness is upon him, but yet he's defiling the tabernacle of the Almighty. Read on, please.
This is the law when a man dieth in a tent. All that come into the tent, and all that is in the tent shall be unclean 7 days. And every open vessel which hath no covering bound upon it is unclean. And whosoever toucheth one that is slain with a sword in the open fields, or a dead body, or bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days. And for an unclean person they shall take of the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin, and running water shall be put thereto in a vessel. And a clean person shall take hyssop, and dip it in the water, and sprinkle it upon the tent, and upon all the vessels, and upon the persons that were there, and upon him that touched a bone, or one slain, or one dead, or a grave. And the clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day. And on the 7th day he shall purify himself, and wash his clothes.
Did you see what was needed? On the 3rd day and the 7th day, only a clean person was needed to sprinkle you. It didn't have to be a priest.
Right.
Didn't have to be Kohanim.
Right.
It had to be a clean person. Didn't specify whether it was a male or female. Just had to be in a state of cleanliness. And also take notice that if you go out to war and you slay somebody and you touch them, they're unclean.
Right.
Your person is unclean. So now when we went out to all those wars, there was a process, a ritual process that was needed when we came back from war.
If we touch the dead
That's
body.
right. So that we could be cleansed.
So like if you slay somebody and you take their possessions off of them, you're unclean.
Yeah. Read on, please.
But the man that shall be unclean, and on the 7th day he shall purify himself, and wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean at evening.
So he had to sprinkle himself on the 3rd day and the 7th day.
Okay.
Read on.
But the man that shall be unclean, and shall not purify himself, that soul shall be cut off from among the congregation, because he have defiled the sanctuary of Elohim. The water of separation have not been sprinkled upon him. He is unclean.
He is unclean. And we wonder sometimes why the Most High appears as if he doesn't hear our prayers. As if he's not blessing us and we're going through some difficult times. It could be because you have defiled this portion of the law, came to the understanding that you were supposed to go through a process and just ignored
He
it.
didn't do it.
Never asked for forgiveness, humility wasn't shown. And you just ignored it and said, that was then. Or you found a reason to justify why you didn't have to do it. You should never do that with the laws of the Most High. When you find out that you are in error, you should go before the Almighty and some type of way ask for forgiveness and seek his face. Read on, please. Is that it? No, you got to go to the end.
And whatsoever the unclean person toucheth shall be unclean, and the soul that toucheth it shall be unclean until even.
So whatever that unclean person touches, he makes it unclean. That's deep, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's different than even if you're a nida,
Mm-hmm.
because you can touch stuff in your nida.
Yeah, whoever she touches when her nida is unclean. But in nida, You could touch a table and the table
Right.
ain't unclean.
And it says whatever.
It's a powerful spiritual thing, man, taking place, and we don't even know, we don't even recognize and
I never
understand.
even read. I mean,
The
I don't recall
spirit-
reading that.
The spiritual realm is powerful, because that's all this is we're reading about. A spiritual uncleanness manifesting itself through the physical. It's deep. Read on, please.
Next chapter or go back
No,
to
read the
Leviticus?
verse out. Read that verse
did.
out. Oh, you did? You completed it? So read the last verse again.
And whatsoever the unclean person toucheth shall be unclean, and the soul that toucheth it shall be unclean until even.
That's it. Let's go back to Leviticus, the 21st chapter. So now we understand what the Father says when he says that you should not, for himself, unclean amongst the dead of his people. No one shall make himself unclean for the dead among his people. Leviticus, the 21st chapter, verse 1. Or verse 2 now.
So at this point, though, if you're unclean from touching dead, you just need to go to the Most High and
Yeah,
ask for
that's all you can do, because you already did it.
It's too late.
Ask him to ask for forgiveness. Who was reading?
I was reading this.
Okay, read on, please. Leviticus,
21st chapter, right?
what verse?
1.
Okay, then go ahead, start over there.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, There shall be none defiled for the dead among his people, but for his kin there is near unto him. There is for his mother, and for his father, and for his son, and for his daughter, and for his brother, and for his sister a virgin that is nigh unto him, which hath had no husband. For her may he be defiled.
Now, take notice that this sister, if she didn't have a husband, she had to be a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
So this shows you the purity of a woman in our culture. Read on, please.
But he has not defiled himself, being a chief man among his people, to profane himself. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off a corner of their beard.
Now we're reading about the Kohanim, the priests. Read on.
Nor make any cuttings in their flesh. They shall be holy unto their God, and not profane the name of their God.
They shall not make bald patches on their head, nor shave off the edges of their beards, nor make any cuts on their bodies. They weren't allowed to get tattoos. They wasn't allowed to get bald heads. They wasn't allowed to shave off their beards or alter their corners of their heads. But just all that's going to come up later. Read on, please.
For the offerings of the Elohim made by fire, and the bread of their Elohim that they do offer, therefore they shall be holy.
Because they offer the breads of the Most High, they offer the holy things, they must first be holy in order to be able to do such a thing. Read on. This is why it's so important when we make prayer, we ask the Creator for permission to approach Him. Because if we're unclean, He could kill us. He could take us out. So we ask for permission if we can approach, because we already know we're unclean. Read on, please.
They shall not take a wife that is a whore or profane, neither shall they take a woman, put her away from her husband.
They shouldn't take a wife that is a what?
Whore.
What is a whore?
Loose woman, I would say. Loose woman, Jezebel.
I would like to think that a woman who wasn't married who had sex.
There you go. Yeah.
I would like to think that. It didn't say prostitute yet.
No.
It's going to say prostitute later, but it says something else right now. What verse you on? Oh, mine says prostitute. They should not marry a prostitute. So I guess they call them a whore, prostitute.
Yeah.
Or a woman who has been defiled. Neither, now defiled. She was defiled. Somebody raped her. Somebody penetrated her. They can't have her as a wife. You know how many sisters that will just alleviate from the equation today?
A lot.
Because of an evil man who had his way with her. Especially in their youth, a lot of women have been raped and molested in their youth.
True.
Yeah. So they could never marry a priest.
Wow.
Neither shall they marry a woman divorced from her husband. So sisters, this is why divorce is shunned in Israel. You should never, never look forward to a divorce, ever. Marriage is supposed to be forever. You keep your chastity until you're married. And then once you become married, that marriage should never end. For the priest is holy unto his Elohim. You shall sanctify him, for he offers the bread of your Elohim. He should be holy to you. Did you hear that? He should be holy to you. That means that you have to have him as set apart. You're supposed to treat him different. You should treat him special. And that's why when you read through the scriptures, whenever a priest came in town, man, everybody wanted the priest to stay with them. Because they wanted to invoke the power and the blessings of the Most High upon their household. A priest should never be without. And if you know an individual that you accept to be a priest, he should never come to your town and you're not looking out for him and taking care of him. Read on, please.
Okay. For I, the Elohim, which sanctify you, am holy, and the daughter of any priest, if she profane herself
Watch this.
by playing the whore, she profane her father, she shall be burnt with fire.
What was her punishment?
Burnt with fire.
You see how severe promiscuity was?
Yeah.
The Father didn't play with that. We take that lightly. We take having sex without marriage as a light thing. The Father didn't play that. Any child, any daughter of a priest, any daughter of a priest who has sex and is not married, what do you say? He plays the harlot. She shall be burnt with fire. You don't disgrace or dishonor
Your father.
because in that you're dishonoring the Almighty. Read on, please.
And he that is the high priest among his brethren, upon the whore's head, the anointing oil was
Upon
poured.
whose head?
Upon whose head the anointing oil was poured, and that is consecrated to put on the garments, shall not uncover his head, nor rend his clothes, neither shall he go in any dead body, nor defile himself for his father or for his mother.
So now we're talking about the high priest. The high priest couldn't even defile him. Watch what the high priest had to do. His whole life was secluded just to the Almighty. This is deep. And a lot of people don't pay attention to this. I had a brother last night who considered himself to be a high priest. Good dude. Good brother. Have a lot of respect for him. But he ain't supposed to come out of the sanctuary. I guess he says, where the sanctuary at? I don't know. Read on. Watch what happens.
Neither shall he go out of the sanctuary, nor profane the sanctuary of his Elohim. For the crown of the anointing oil of his Elohim is upon him.
That means he had to stay in the sanctuary his whole life.
He could never come out.
As long as he served in the office of high priest, he had to stay within the confines of the sanctuary.
Wow.
That means that everybody took care of him, everybody waited on him.
He had to.
Yeah, they provided for him.
They
He
had
was
to.
set, but his life was difficult because it was excluded. He was set apart for real, for real. Read on, please.
I am the Elohim, and he shall take a wife in her virginity.
He shall take a wife in her virginity. So she had to be a virgin, and she had to live with him.
In seclusion in the sanctuary.
Read on, please.
A widow or a divorced woman or profane or an harlot, these shall he not take, but he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife.
He had to take a virgin of his own people. See, this is why it's so important that the Father lets us know that we shouldn't be marrying different races of people. He had to take a virgin of his own people to wife. Now, it's even deeper because if you look deep into the word, it gives you the understanding that he had to marry another Levite woman.
Mm.
Yeah, I was about to ask in his nation, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Read on, please.
Neither shall he profane his seed among his people, for I
See? He couldn't even profane his seed amongst his people. He had to marry a Levite wife.
Virgin wife.
And she had to be a virgin. And she could have never been married. So that means she couldn't have had sex.
right.
She had to be a virgin. Read on, please.
For I, the Elohim, do sanctify him. And the Elohim spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron, saying, Whosoever he be of thy seed in their generations that have any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his Elohim. Wow. For whosoever.
So any of the priesthood, babe, Joy, love it to it.
I'm good.
Any of the priesthood who had a blemish, a flat nose, a limb, broken hand, something like that nature, he couldn't serve or make the offerings unto the Creator. Yeah. He could serve the Creator, but he couldn't go into the most holy place because he was unclean. He was like a poor sacrifice, a blemish sacrifice. Read on. You want to ask a question? Read on, please.
For whosoever man he be that have a blemish, he shall not approach a blind man or a lame,
Who has a mutilated face,
or he have a flat nose or anything superficious, or a man that is broken footed or broken handed, or crook backed, or dwarf, or that has a blemish in his eye, or he be scurvy or scathed,
he has a disease, a venereal disease.
or have his stones broken.
Now, crushed testicles is making reference to a man
A eunuch? A eunuch?
That's why.
Yeah,
That's why I
a
was thinking
eunuch.
of eunuch.
or a man who has went through the procedure so that he can't have children.
Oh, okay.
He's now blemished.
Vasectomy, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
A vasectomy.
So
He
he's
can't
unclean.
serve in the duty of a priest.
Wow.
Read on.
No man that has a blemish of the seed of Aaron, the priest shall come nigh to his offering. The offerings of the Lord of the Elohim may be by fire. He have a blemish. He shall not come nigh to offer the bread of his Elohim. He shall eat the bread of his Elohim, both of the mostly holy and of the holy. Only he shall not go unto the veil, nor come nigh unto the altar, because he hath a blemish, that he profane not my sanctuaries. For I, the Elohim, do sanctify him. And Moses told it unto Aaron, and unto the sons, and unto all the children of Israel.
All right. Very well. Total Rabbah for that reading. Are there any questions? Any discussion?
Dedication.
Yeah, it just opened my eyes up. Oh, wow. It's deep.
May the Most High be praised.
That's really deep. That's